me go ahead and test the audience microphone as well. Audience microphone.
Audience microphone number one is kind of low. I don't know if you guys can hear me, or I can't hear it over
I'm
here.
not getting any audio off of that one. Let's bring that one up a little bit.
It's going to be pink. There we go.
There we go.
Audience microphone number one. If you
Okay.
have any questions,
Audience
raise
microphone.
your hands.
Let me get this
Mic will get to
side.
you.
Other audience microphone.
Mic number two, mic number two.
Mic number 2 is good. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Conducting this audio test. This is the final. Let's see if we say that again one more time. Final. Good to go? Anybody else still pending? Pending? Anybody? We're good? All right. I'm out.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to begin shortly. The tour actually went a little bit faster than we thought. So, as well, Secretary Mayorkas is going to come up here, give a brief speech, address the audience. He's going to be accompanied by some CODA. They are also going to come up and they're going to give their little speech of what they saw and talk about what they saw. We are going to have a Q&A portion. It's all going to be dependent on how long the presentations go here, the speeches. We are going to have 2 microphones on each side, so if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll have one of our agents come out with the mic, that way they can hear you. I know we have some Spanish networks here. I did ask about will he be able to address or answer questions in Spanish. He prefers in English. So, any questions for me? No? Thank you. It's good on the feedback on the audio? Yeah? All right. For the Spanish networks, if you do want to ask a question, Barragan and Escobar from the CODO, they'll be able to take those questions and answer in Spanish.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning and here. On March 28th, across the border, we had 5,767 children in the custody of the United States Border Patrol. They were in Border Patrol custody for an average of 133 hours. At this facility specifically, on April 2nd, we had more than 4,300 individuals, and of those, approximately 3,700 were unaccompanied children, and they were here for an average of 139 hours. When our administration began, we inherited a system that had been torn down and dismantled, and I said at the time, in late March, that we have a plan to address the challenge of the unaccompanied children who were apprehended along the border, that the plan would take time to execute, and it would be difficult to do so, but this is what we do. We do the difficult work, and we know how to do it. Today, there are approximately 700 children in Border Patrol custody along the border, and they are in the Border Patrol custody for an average of 26 hours. Today at this facility, rather than approximately 3,700 unaccompanied children, there are 334. Rather than a custody period of approximately 139 hours, they are here for approximately 24 hours. There are several reasons why we have accomplished such a dramatic change, in addition to the plan that we were executing, and that is because of the people who are executing that plan. Chief Hastings of the United States Border Patrol here at Donna, and then men and women whom he leads, and the men and women of the United States Border Patrol across the entire border. The men and women of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, who have lent such extraordinary skill and dedication to the mission. To the men and women at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, who have also lent their expertise and resources to the mission. And of course, our partners at Health and Human Services and across the government. The President directed an all-of-government approach to meet the challenge, and we certainly have accomplished that. The challenge remains. It is not behind us, but our plan of execution is well underway, and the results are compelling. The border remains closed, and as a part of our all-of-government effort, we are not only addressing the needs of the unaccompanied children pursuant to the law, but we are also addressing every other element of that challenge, including the smuggling organizations that exploit vulnerable children, vulnerable families and individuals, and who prioritize profit over people. I announced a number of days ago Operation Sentinel, which is an all-of-government and all of the Department of Homeland Security effort to combat the human smuggling organizations that exploit the vulnerable individuals before they arrive here in Border Patrol custody. We are also executing on the President and the Vice President's direction, not only to build back, but to build back better. We have re-engineered the process for the treatment of unaccompanied children, the transfer of them to Health and Human Services shelters where they belong. They do not belong in a Border Patrol station. As I said at the very outset, a Border Patrol station is no place for a child. but the children belong in the shelter of Health and Human Services and in the care of Health and Human Services as they are being united with their parents, their relatives, and their legal sponsors here in the United States. And we are re-engineering that process, and so we are building back better. Fundamentally, we are also executing the President's three-part strategy and the Vice President's three-part strategy. We are going to be addressing the root causes of irregular migration and working in the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. We are going to be building legal pathways so individuals, parents do not feel compelled to place their children in the hands of the exploiting smuggling organizations. We will build legal processes for them to come here to the United States when they are qualified to do so under the laws that Congress has passed and with respect to the passing of law. And critically, we are committed to passing immigration reform. There is unanimous agreement that our immigration system is broken and immigration reform is desperately needed. And I am here today, as I have been previously, but I am joined today with leaders who are seeking to achieve that much-needed reform, and it is my privilege to introduce Congresswoman Lucille Roybal-Allard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Congresswoman Lucille Roybal-Allard from California, and I am the chair of the Appropriations Subcommittee for the Department of Homeland Security. And I came here with that perspective. I came here to see, first of all, from the perspective of where we were, where we are today, and what it is that we're looking towards as we look into the future. And these are some of my observations in which I've taken notes, which is one thing that is very, very positive, that now the way that programs are being developed, they're being developed by evidence-based guidelines. And that is something that is absolutely critical to ensure that the detainees and the children are being treated fairly, humanely, and based, again, on the evidence. Also, one of the things that was missing in the past that is very, very positive, and one of the reasons that we're seeing some of the results we are and being able to move detainees more quickly, is that there is now coordination that did not exist between Border Patrol, between ORR, and other agencies that were responsible, like with FEMA, that are now working together to develop the process in which these children and the detainees now are going to be able to move. And the fact that through these coordinating efforts, the medical needs of these children and the detainees are being the children are being evaluated and receiving the care that they need as they are processed through. Also, another improvement, again, that has to do with the coordination of these agencies is case management. The case management now, with the processing, the removal of some of the barriers, and the unifying of children is moving much more smoothly because of the fact that under the Secretary's guidance, we now have these coordinated efforts between the various agencies that did not exist. So there still needs to be a lot more done as we look forward. But the fact is that there are now studies being made, there are evaluations being made, and as Border Patrol was saying, many of the things that they are doing now are lessons learned from what had happened in the past. And so under the leadership of the Secretary, we are seeing now that we are moving forward towards a humane way of dealing with immigrants, with our children, and doing everything that we can to be able to unite them with family members here in the United States. So those are some of the positive things that are happening. But I do want to say, yes, we still have more work to do, but the good news is that under the leadership of the Secretary, those things are being identified, and we are moving towards making the improvements that are needed in the future. Okay, I now want to introduce my colleague, Linda Sanchez, and I want to point out that we're never going to solve all these issues unless we deal with a comprehensive immigration system, something that really works, because right now our immigration system is broken. And as you know, President Biden has put forward his immigration plan, and he has asked Linda Sanchez, my colleague, to take the lead on this bill. And so it's now my privilege to have her come to the microphone.
Thank you, Lucille. And I want to thank my colleagues that have joined us on this tour today. They are warriors in making sure that our country is doing what we need to do at the border, that we remain a country of laws, but a country that treats immigrants humanely. They are warriors in the battle to fix our broken immigration system and to make our country a better place that's instilled in the American values that we all cherish. Secretary Mayorkas, big thank you for inviting us out to tour the facility today. I know that it's been a tough road for you because you inherited a system that had, quite frankly, been dismantled by the previous administration. And I know that we're not going to be able to fix 4 years of damage in just 4 months, but we are well on our way, and we saw today that they are making significant progress in a very short period of time. Families are being reunited. That's good news. As a mom of a young son, I can't imagine how difficult the decision is for parents to send their children north on a dangerous journey just to find safety and security. And the past administration, with its policies of chaos and cruelty, separated families and created additional traumas that these kids face. I think it bears repeating again and again and again that we are not going to fix irregular migration until we fix our broken immigration system. We need a new immigration system that matches the challenges that we encounter today and that keeps our values as a nation of immigrants. And that's why I'm humbled and honored that President Biden has asked me to introduce the U.S. Citizenship Act in Congress and to shepherd the bill through the process of getting it passed out of the House. You know, it's interesting when I talk to my colleagues, because I'm in the process of educating people about what's in the bill, about the things that are going to help us once and for all fix our legal immigration system and allow a pathway to earn citizenship for 11 million undocumented people that are living and working in the United States, many of whom got us through the pandemic. And when I educate my colleagues about the fact that the U.S. Citizenship Act for the first time seeks to address the root causes that force people to make that dangerous journey north, we can talk about and have a productive discussion about ending those cyclical flows, because unless we get at those root causes, we're going to continue to see those surges in immigration. So although we are well on our path towards trying to inject more humanity into our system in terms of reuniting families, treating them better when we process them, it's a long road ahead. But again, I have no better group of colleagues to embark on that mission with than the women that you see standing with me today, and it's not an accident that they're women. You want something done, ask busy women to get it done. So with that, I'd love to introduce one of the warriors in this battle, a fellow Congresswoman from the great state of California, Nanette Barragan.
Thank you. Check this thing off. Congressmember Barragan from South Los Angeles. I serve as the chair of the Border Subcommittee on the U.S. House Homeland Committee. I was here 3 weeks ago. And when I was here 3 weeks ago, there was about 2,200 individuals in this facility. And coming back today to see the remarkable difference, the numbers have declined significantly. And here's why this is important. As the Secretary mentioned, having individuals in this facility is not ideal. It's ideal to have kids and families with their family members. It's ideal to have kids and families with a bed, to have family to love and be around them, right? This is a temporary area where they come to get to their family. And so when I came here 3 weeks ago, we saw more number of individuals, quite a lot more. It was like 2,200 versus what we're at now. The number of hours that people were here were a lot longer. Today I had a chance to speak to some families and to some kids. What was remarkable was hearing from the kids when you asked them, how long have you been here? In the past, we had heard days, many days. Today, it was under 24 hours. There wasn't anybody here who had said they had been here for multiple days, which I thought was real remarkable. So, Mr. Secretary, that is a huge accomplishment. That under the prior administration, we never ever heard that kids, especially at the height of the numbers that we have been seeing, have been outside of Border Patrol custody. And the men and the women of the Border Patrol will tell you, they're not in the business of taking care of kids. They're in the business of law enforcement, protecting the border. And so it's in the interest not only of these children, but our country to move these kids out of Border Patrol custody as quickly as possible. And I've seen today that improvement was just huge. The last thing I just want to note was the last time I was here 3 weeks ago, when I spoke to kids and individuals, I did a little survey. And I said, how many of you here have made a telephone call? Only a few hands went up. I said, how many of you here want to make a telephone call? And nearly all the hands went up. And many of the kids then didn't know they could make a phone call. So I very nicely said, well, maybe we can put signs up. So today you can walk into the facility and there is a sign that has photos that tells these kids what they can ask for. A phone call, food, formula. It's great to see that the administration and the secretary and the team here on the ground is willing to listen on where there needs to be an improvement, because it's so critical. When you come here, think about this for a second. You're an 8-year-old child, you're afraid, you're separated from your family, your parents are in another country. What do you want to do? You want to call somebody. You want to hear a familiar voice. And so today we've seen that change. Everybody I spoke to today, every single person I spoke to today, I asked them the same question: have you made a phone call? And the answer was yes. I know I said, do you know you can make a phone call? Yes. So that's another huge change that I saw that I think means a lot to these families. So there is clearly still more work to do, but we are on the road. I've seen the progress in just a short 3 weeks. So thank you to the entire administration, to the secretary, and to the men and women who are on the ground making this happen. The Border Patrol, the CBP, everybody who's working together. And so with that, it's my honor to introduce my colleague from Texas, Veronica Escobar. Oh. My other colleague from Texas, Sylvia Garcia.
Well, the good news is that Veronica Escobar and I are like comadres. We're almost joined at the hip. We got elected together, made history together for being the first 2 Latinas ever elected from Texas. So first of all, for those of you who are not from Texas, Secretary Mayorkas, welcome to Texas. And let me just say that what a difference 100 days make. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I have been visiting sites like this since I was a state senator, because the first surge happened at that time. I have visited sites that are private and for-profit. I have visited some that are run by faith-based organizations, some that are not. I have visited sites in Georgia, Florida, New Mexico, and here in Texas. And I can tell you that what you've done here in the last, let's see, you were straddled with this about the beginning of February. It's just absolutely remarkable. The numbers speak for themselves. Representative Barragan mentioned it, 2,300? 2,200 when she was here just a few weeks ago, and we're down to less than 400 children here. So I just want to make sure that you all fully digest that. That's a huge change, and to see that they're getting the services that they need. And like the Secretary said, I agree with him, nobody wants a child in detention. Nobody. The big difference here is that these children were not removed cruelly from the arms of their children. These children arrived and presented at the border unaccompanied. It's a huge difference, but we're providing the support, we're providing what they need, and more importantly, we're working from day one on reuniting them with their families. Let's be mindful that Sunday is Mother's Day. Monday is Mother's Day. Sunday is Mother's Day. Someone in Guatemala, someone in El Salvador, someone in Honduras, somewhere, there's a mother wondering where her child is. Our job is to make sure to assure that mother and all mothers around the world that when they migrate to the United States of America, that we will treat them with dignity and respect and with care, just like we would hope that our children who go somewhere to another country would be treated. And I know that for me, the numbers that make the biggest difference is the change that we have made in placing the children with their family members. Remember the numbers, 80% of the children who come unaccompanied have a family member here in the United States. It could be a father, it could be a mother, it could be an aunt or an uncle. We will reunite them. That is the highest priority. If I had anything else, Mr. Secretary, that I would ask you to do, and we've talked about it already, is to embed social workers here immediately to start working on that casework, doing the social profile, talking to the children about how to locate their family member so that we can reunite them as quickly as possible. Those are the numbers that I want to make sure that get better. I think we're doing really, really well. But as the Secretary mentioned, we're building back better, and the way to really measure that is when we reunite children with their family here. With that, I'll close, and I'll pass the mic now to my comadre from the great state of Texas, Veronica Escobar.
Thank you, comadre. Buenas tardes. Primero en español. Le quiero dar las gracias al secretario. Estoy tan agradecida poder estar aquí con mis colegas, pero también con un líder que cree en compasión y que sabe que podemos ser un país de leyes, pero también un país de compasión. Lo que hemos visto en los pasados 4 meses es un cambio increíble, un cambio, una transformación a una agencia y un modo de tratar a personas vulnerables que está haciendo una diferencia en las vidas de niños, pero también una diferencia en nuestro país. Al fin estamos tratando a las personas que están llegando, los niños que están llegando con la dignidad que merecen. Tenemos todavía mucho trabajo que hacer porque tenemos familias que todavía no pueden entrar, tenemos personas todavía que no pueden entrar, pero nosotros como miembros del Congreso tenemos un trabajo que hacer para cambiar estas leyes antiguas y las leyes que enseñan que tenemos un sistema bien quebrado. Pero le quiero dar las gracias al secretario Mayorkas por el trabajo que ha hecho, porque hemos visto, en vez de lo que vimos en 2019, con familias bajo condiciones tan horribles que ni podíamos creer que estaba pasando en los Estados Unidos, y con niños en facilidades como estas por 30 días, 60 días. Ahora, cuando hablamos con los niños, menos de 24 horas. Y los niños, en nuestro país, nuestro gobierno, al fin, tiene la prioridad de reunir a los niños con sus familias. Es una diferencia muy grande. I want to thank the Secretary and my colleagues for today. You know, I come from El Paso, Texas, and I will tell you it is frequently frustrating for those of us on the border to see the ebb and flow of attention that migrant issues and immigration get. And frequently it's under the veil of a very politicized conversation. And of late, we've seen colleagues of ours from the other side of the aisle parachute into communities like McAllen, like Donna, like El Paso, and talk about a crisis. The crisis really is what children, families, and individuals are fleeing. The crisis has been our inability to adequately and compassionately manage populations, especially vulnerable populations. And the crisis has been an unwillingness by some to pass laws that would create meaningful change. We finally have an incredible piece of legislation being shepherded by Linda Sanchez and Senator Menendez, led by the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. We finally have a Department of Homeland Security Secretary who is interested not only in rule of law, but compassion, and ensuring that every vulnerable human being, children especially, are treated with dignity, the dignity that every person deserves. But we have a lot of work to do. And I think some of that work, to be perfectly candid, has to happen outside of Congress as well, and that's with the American public. I think if we take a step back and take a look at how long our country historically has failed, both on a domestic policy front and on a foreign policy front, to reckon with the fact that immigration happens, and it's a matter of how we best manage it. And the more that we shrink legal pathways, which we saw especially over the last 4 years, of course we're going to see a consequence of more people seeking irregular migration and depending on other pathways. The Secretary mentioned increasing legal pathways. We in Congress have to also increase legal pathways. And we have to create a system that manages human beings with dignity. And it's time that we turn the corner and acknowledge as a country that we depend on immigrants. Immigrants are a net positive for our economy. Immigrants are the foundation of our country. And that communities like the one I represent in El Paso, we are the new Ellis Island. And how we treat vulnerable souls arriving at our front door is on all of us, not just the Secretary, not just Congress, not just the media, but on all of us. I know we can do better, all of us together. We have seen a remarkable improvement in the last 4 months alone. In the last 4 months alone, under the worst possible circumstances, where the transition that this administration faced was not a transition, but an insurrection, where there was a delay in getting the secretary confirmed, and where the administration and the secretary inherited the worst of all chaotic situations, preceded by an administration intent on dismantling every legal and compassionate system possible. But even with those odds, the gains made have been remarkable. And I think as you hear colleagues of ours continue to want to replay the same tape, and I'm talking about our Republican colleagues, and refuse to acknowledge the truth, which is that we are doing things better and that we are going to continue on the path of progress. It's really on all of you, I hope, to show them the data, to show them the numbers, and we have to be the truth tellers. We have to be the truth tellers. And I look forward to continued progress. I look forward to holding each other accountable, working together to ensuring that we do right by our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think we'll open it up to questions. Yes, ma'am. Hi. Nice to see you.
Now it's on.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi. Thanks for your time today. Title 42 has been credited or blamed for the rise in single adults, but also families are now taking extraordinary measures, separating themselves in some cases at the border, sending children on their own. But also families are now in this facility behind us who are still subject to Title 42. Given that the initial cause or I guess defense of Title 42 was we're not going to put people in congregate settings. They're in congregate settings, but they're still being expelled. When does Title 42 end? Is it being used as more of a deterrent at this stage than a COVID-related effect?
Thank you, Alicia. Title 42 is the public health authority of the Center for Disease Control. It is an authority that the Department of Health and Human Services, of which the Center for Disease Control, or CDC, is a part, and it is exercised as a public health authority in the face of a pandemic that is not yet behind us. The use of Title 42 is driven by the public health imperative. It is not a tool of immigration. It is a tool of public health to protect not only the American people, but the migrants themselves. Its use is tied to the data and the conditions that the public health imperative is based upon and requires. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll turn it over to Marcia to steer the questions.
Hi, Secretary. Given the reduction in the turnover time that you've been talking about today, do you have any plans to close any of the temporary facilities that have been built in the last few months?
I don't know if everybody heard the question. Given the numbers that are here in the facility, do we have any plans to close any of the facilities? I said something at the very beginning that I think is therefore necessary to repeat, which is we have made dramatic progress. Everyone who has joined me today has both seen it and remarked upon it. The challenge remains, as we all know all too well. Immigration, and including irregular migration, is a very dynamic challenge. And therefore, the challenge is not entirely behind us, though we have accomplished a great deal. And we must maintain the capacity to deal with and address the dynamism so we do not experience, to the best of our abilities, what we experienced at the end of March and the beginning of April, of which I spoke earlier.
Hi, thank you, Secretary, for coming. My name is Valerie.
So it is very hard to hear you. Forgive
Sorry.
me.
I'll take off one of the masks. Might help. My name is Valerie. I'm a reporter for The Monitor. It's a local newspaper. I've been traveling to Reynosa quite often, and I'm not sure if you're aware of the situation developing there. It's becoming what some nonprofit organizations have called a second Matamoros. Another encampment is forming. Not too long ago, there was a woman, a trans woman, who was kidnapped from the plaza. I spoke with also a dad and a little girl who were expelled about 2 weeks ago from here. The little girl has to have a catheter inserted 3 times a day, and she's got spina bifida. They're vulnerable migrants. And there's been a lot of cases like there's another little girl who's also deaf, can also communicate. So I was wondering 2 things related to this situation. If you could address what's happening with the vulnerable migrants, you could talk about the processing for them. I know that there's an exception, but I believe that DHS is moving to broaden and standardize the processing and identification of vulnerable migrants? And secondly, if you could also tell us what the administration is doing to counteract the effects of Title 42 on the Mexican side, which have become, in effect, a second MPP. Thank you.
So I didn't hear every word, but I think I captured the thrust of your question, so I hope I do answer it comprehensively, because I heard you refer to the situation in Reynosa. I heard you speak of Matamoros, the challenges there, and the victimization of the vulnerable population of migrants who leave the Northern Triangle, and some leave Mexico as well, to escape extraordinary violence and poverty. First, I think it's important to repeat what I said at the outset, which is that smuggling organizations exploit these individuals and exploit their vulnerabilities. And that is why it is so important that the individuals who are thinking of leaving these countries understand the dangers of the journey and what can happen to them if, in fact, they actually make it to the border. We are very mindful, as is our partner, the government of Mexico, with respect to the violence in certain cities, and we are working with the government of Mexico and the nonprofit organizations to address the vulnerability of individuals. You noted correctly that indeed we have from the very outset made exceptions to our application of the Public Health Authority under Title 42 for individuals and families that have suffered acute vulnerabilities.
Good afternoon, Secretary. You mentioned the number of children who are under Border Protection CBP care here. Do you have the number for the children who are under HHS care, and are they intense on this compound? There was criticism that perhaps the administration is making it seem like the children were moved far away, but are they indeed here, and is there special accommodations for them being made? What's different?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood your question. The numbers that I provided with respect to the children who are here in the Donna facility is an accurate representation of the number of children who are here in the Donna facility. The number that I provided with respect to the children who are in the custody of the Border Patrol across the border is in fact the accurate number of children who are in custody in the Border Patrol across the border. The Border Patrol station is no place for a child, and therefore it is our mission and responsibility to transfer those children as swiftly as possible into the care and shelter of the Department of Health and Human Services, where the facilities are far better for the children and where there are the wraparound services that the children both need and deserve. And ultimately, our responsibility in an all-of-government effort and across the government is to unite those children with their parents or legal guardians or legal sponsors here in the United States. I spoke at the outset of our re-engineering of that process. Indeed, we are, and we have done that, and the time it takes to unite the children with their sponsor has been contracted as well. We've made tremendous progress there, and we will continue to make tremendous progress. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm not sure we're going to be able to answer all the questions that you would be asking the Secretary, but if there's other questions that you have, we will try and do our best.
Hello. Hi. My name's Reynaldo. I'm with Latino USA, and I had two questions, and I'm not sure, I mean, this might have been a question for the Secretary, but I mean, we're in the Rio Grande Valley. There's been news about how military funds won't be used for border wall construction, but some money has been allocated through Congress, so local residents and organizations down here are concerned that border wall might still continue. And I was wondering if you all had any sense of like what's going to be happening with that. What can you tell residents, who are concerned about border wall construction that was allocated through Congress? And then the second question I had was in relation to Title 42, MPP. I know there's been the first phase of people being let in, but there's also a group of people who might have missed a court hearing because they were kidnapped. I've been in touch with a couple, one has an ongoing case, the other one doesn't anymore. And I was just wondering if there's any update as to what's gonna happen to that group of people as well.
Well, I can answer the border wall question in part. Some of the money that's been allocated, like for levees, for repairing walls that are already there, that will continue. We are looking to see what can be done because there's going to be no money for border wall in my bill, and we're trying to see legally what can be done with regards to what you're asking about if money is going to continue to be used for building the wall. We're looking at that now. So I don't have an answer on that part. But you will see some construction for the contracts, for repairs, levies, other things that have already been out there. And for the second part, I think we don't really know. Okay. have a question. Yeah.
Ok. Sorry. Buenos días. Quería preguntarle a la congresista Silvia García, un saludo, usted verla que usted ha visitado muchos lugares, como lo dijo hace un rato. ¿Qué le sorprendió más de lo que vio? Y hay un temor, y el temor es que el Departamento de Salud tiene muchos más albergues ahora, pero la cantidad de niños que siguen cruzando la frontera solos no ha bajado. Ayer nos informaron que más o menos son casi 300 por día que siguen cruzando todos los días en este sector del Río Grande Valley. Sabemos que están cruzando en otros sectores. ¿Temen ustedes que si se llenan esos albergues del Departamento de Salud, vamos a ver de nuevo este lugar abarrotado de niños en las próximas semanas?
Bueno, pero la cosa más importante es el positivo es que los números están tan bajos. Ya escucharon lo que dijo la congresista Barragan, que cuando ella estaba aquí, 2 o 3 semanas pasadas, era como 2 o 3 mil niños, y hoy son menos de 400. Así para mí eso es un cambio muy tremendo, y lo han hecho en 3 meses. Así es que es muy importante que todo el mundo conozca eso, ¿no? Porque eso es un cambio tremendo. Y también los números que están cruzando en la frontera son menos. Pero también sabemos que eso pasa, es cíclico, ¿no? Eso pasa cada año, porque ya cuando se pone la temperatura más caliente, y pues ahorita está caliente, pero se va a poner en agosto más caliente, entonces los números también bajan. Así es que ha sido tremendo lo que han hecho y los servicios que tienen aquí. Y hablamos con muchos de los niños, también con una de las señoras que están aquí con sus niños, y una me dijo que llegó apenas ayer y ya está listándose para salir. Así es que eso es lo que queremos nosotros, que no estén aquí por mucho tiempo y que estén en los sitios que tienen más servicios para atenderlos mejor y también para unirlos con sus familias. Gracias.
Last question.
Hey there, Arely Hernandez with the Washington Post. Had a couple of questions for you all, and this is open to any one of you. First of all, what has the Secretary or the Department shared with you as to what the plan is with family units in particular, whether they're going to continue to release families into the United States or if there's an actual plan that's being formulated and put into place? And secondly, do you think that the progress that you saw here displayed will resolve the issues that your colleagues across the aisle have been complaining about?
I'll take the second part of that question, which is that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are never satisfied. They will never be happy. The border will never be secure enough. We spent $26 billion on border security in fiscal year 2020. And that number has gone up in the last decades. We've doubled the number of Border Patrol agents in the last decade. So no, they're never satisfied. And the only way that we are going to get at the issue of people arriving at our southern border is to get at the root causes of immigration. So reducing the violence and the poverty and the corruption, particularly in the Northern Triangle countries, and fixing our broken legal immigration system once and for all. There are bottlenecks and choke points in our legal system that quite frankly incentivize people to come illegally. Until we overhaul our current immigration system to meet the needs of our country today, we are going to continually see people show up at our southern border. So we are doing our best to reach out to Republicans in the Congress. I've had conversations with them about the U.S. Citizenship Act and the many great things that are included in this bill. This is my 19th year in Congress. Since I arrived, I have been working at fixing our broken immigration reform system and reforming it in a way to provide relief. It's interesting because those same colleagues who don't want to talk about fixing our broken immigration system and want to make Americans believe that immigrants are here to do us harm are the same people who called these workers essential workers during the pandemic. They are the people that, made sure that when we went to the grocery store, there was food on the shelves for us to buy. They are the people that care for our elderly in nursing home facilities, that take care of our children in child care facilities, that treat people with COVID in the emergency room, that clean the hospitals where the COVID patients went. So you can't, on the one hand, say that they're essential for our economy, for the functioning of our economy, and then on the other hand, say that they're here for nefarious reasons and to do harm to our country. We have got to grapple with the fact that we cannot continue to kick the can down the road. We have spent decades without doing anything to our immigration system, and it's just not sustainable. The status quo is not sustainable. 90% of the unaccompanied minors that arrive here have parents or relatives living in the United States. If we were able to open up a legal path for them to bring their children, they wouldn't have to make that dangerous journey north. And shame on the Ted Cruzes of the world that want to criticize the administration for doing miracles in the last 4 months, when for the last 4 years, all the Trump administration did was tear apart families and create more chaos. So we are not going to temporarily fix this problem without a long-term solution. And a long-term solution is we need to update our immigration laws, and the U.S. Citizenship Act is the way to do that.
Can I just add one more thing? Sorry, just one more thing, because I think it's important. And I did talk to the Secretary about a plan, but I'm not going to share. I think that's for the Secretary to discuss. I did share my concerns about Title 42. I have been very open about my feelings about Title 42. It is a policy that I would like to see abolished as quickly as possible. But I do want to also just mention what our colleagues on the other side of the aisle frequently say is they're all for legal immigration. Knowing full well, they say this knowing full well, that every pathway possible that the Trump administration could shut down was shut down. So they know that the legal pathways have been littered with obstacle after obstacle, if not shut down completely. And so, I think it's very important to not let them get away with all of this. Representative Sanchez mentioned Ted Cruz. How long have Ted Cruz and John Cornyn been in office? And essentially done little to nothing about addressing the full comprehensive situation that Representative Sanchez just described. So, we've got to, in many ways, we've got to stop looking in the rearview mirror, and I know I'm guilty of that, and we've got to look forward to solutions. But when they say they're for legal immigration, they need to be challenged about the limited legal options that people have. Thank you all so much.